Welcome to another exciting episode of Mission Compliance, Unleashing Growth Potential for Defense Contractors. In today's episode, we continue down the road of understanding CMMC, its regulations, and controls. Up next is AC L2-3.1.21. Limit use of organizational portable storage devices on external systems. We'll break down what this control means, why it matters, and how it impacts your organization's cybersecurity posture. We'll also provide practical insights and strategies for achieving compliance and securing your systems effectively. So whether you're a defense contractor aiming to win more contracts or simply someone interested in bolstering your cybersecurity knowledge, you're in the right place. You know what comes next. We're joined once again today by Mike Frieder, President of On-Call Compliance Solutions and a CMMC Professional Assessor. Thanks for joining us, Mike.
Hey, always a pleasure, Roman.
So, Mike, this week we're talking about portable storage devices. It may seem obvious, but why is it important to limit the use of portable storage devices like USBs or hard drives?
That's a great question. And you could say that it seems obvious, and on the surface it really is. But I think that there's a lot of things when it comes to security that would seem obvious, particularly if you're an IT guy or maybe a high-level executive trying to sort of get this compliance stuff done. But the reality is for, your average, sort of end user, and it's not so obvious, it's just kind of like, hey, here's a USB drive and it works. And why wouldn't I take this thing to the public library? And why wouldn't I take it everywhere I go and put it on my keychain and, stick it in my company system and put it in my home system? And, it kind of gets to the point where it's a little bit like, it's a little bit like, an STD that just gets, transferred around the villages. No, I'm just kidding. When you're in Florida, that's a very familiar joke.
Thank you for that.
But in all reality, I mean, I think that's like basically the best analogy that I can come up with. So I'll just go with it. But look, the reason that this exists is because, and here's the worst part is it's really ambiguous. It uses this word limit. What does that really mean, limit? What is it that they're looking for when you're trying to assess a control that uses the word limit, but doesn't expressly say, don't do this? And I think that is another one of the things that really, truly makes NIST SP 800-171 a bit daunting for people trying to get compliant, because if you've never, let's say your company is new to defense contracting and you've just really never dealt with a quality standard like ISO, or you've never dealt with AS 9100, or you've never dealt with any kind of other compliance because, maybe you're just a small startup, or maybe you're a mid-sized company that manufactures things for the commercial sector where you're just not used to those formal certifications like this and compliance standards. You're like, what in the world do I do with this requirement? First off, why does it exist? Well, it exists because there exists an inherent risk when you take a portable storage medium that can be written to and you put it into any system. So there's a certain amount of risk even with putting it into your own systems. That risk is a process can, unbeknownst to you, write files that could be executable or not executable and just be mobile code onto that USB thumb drive. It's possible, it happens, and it can even happen without you knowing it. So when you combine putting that into someone else's system that may have a different security standard, maybe no security standard, and then you're taking it back to your system, there is just simply an increased risk. And I think because of that increased risk, the reality is they put the control in here. Now, why do they use the word limit? Well, because some organizations simply cannot actually comply with this. They just can't. They could not discontinue fully the use of portable storage media that is plugged into external systems. And why is because there are some situations that warrant taking data onto a thumb drive versus transiting it through the internet. Those could even include classified and top secret documents that should never go through the internet based on their classification. So there's a lot of different situations where you can't say don't use portable storage devices on external systems. But nonetheless, the control exists to set a clear expectation. Really, honestly, it's like a control. It's like asking a rhetorical question. they're like, hey guys, this is a control, so you probably shouldn't do this. Hint, hint. And that's the why it exists, Roman.
Right, absolutely. So with that being said, what are the key assessment points that an assessor might be looking for on this one?
So there's three key assessment points on 3.1.21. And again, as you can imagine, it's probably on the surface not very clear what it is you should do to comply with this. Especially if you're not really sort of familiar with the idea of compliance in general. Compliance is a lot about documentation. It's a little bit about what you do, and it's a lot about documentation. The first assessment point is determine if the use of portable storage devices containing CUI on external systems is identified and documented. So what is identified? Well, you identify things like this in policy, whether it's an inventory of your portable storage devices. So you probably should keep an inventory of those portable storage devices that are authorized to be put into your CUI handling system. And then is it documented what they are so that you know what those devices are? Are they asset tagged? Do they have serial numbers that are stored in a CUI media access log? Have you gone to the point where you know what those devices are that are acceptable to be in your system and documented that and identified that? So a sample answer might be something like the organization prohibits the use of portable storage media on external systems per the IT use and cybersecurity policy. Now that happens to be our sample answer because we just said, look, it's really just, there is no circumstance where it has to happen. And that is a good answer for some organizations. However, for some other organizations, that may not be possible. So another example answer that I would potentially give is something to the extent of, the organization has identified all authorized portable storage devices, documented them in a CUI media access log by serial number, and trained staff that only these designated devices are to be checked in and checked out of the IT department and used, and usage should be logged in the CUI media access log. Extensive answer, but that's the right answer if you're using it. Now, second assessment point, determine if limits on the use of portable storage devices containing CUI on external systems are defined. So what's the limit, right? Well, again, kind of an ambiguous word. What is a limit? So a limit are things that you can and cannot do with these devices. Ideally, you should have a portable storage device policy, or you should address it in your IT use and cybersecurity policy, one of those two. And you have to define what you can and can't do. For instance, our policy dictates that we are not allowed to use portable storage devices. That's our policy. However, again, you could have a different policy, which is stating that you are limited to use of portable storage media in client environments or home environments, or you're not allowed to use them in home environments or on non-pre-approved by IT machines. Lots and lots of answers, but whatever the answer is, it should be documented in a policy. So sample answer here, the organization prohibits the use of portable storage media on external systems per the IT use and cybersecurity policy. That's kind of our easy button answer. Now, final assessment point is determine if the use of portable storage devices containing CUI on external systems is limited as defined. So how are we going to determine if the use of portable storage devices containing CUI is actually limited? Lots and lots of ways to do that. Number one is we're gonna ultimately actually interview somebody, right? So if this was a high level assessment, they're going to interview people. In our sample answer for our SSP, we're going to say the organization prohibits the use of portable storage media on external systems per the IT use and cybersecurity policy. That is the best way to determine if this is limited as defined. Another way to do it would be if you had an endpoint management system. So an example might be, you have an endpoint system that scans upon insertion or things like that. So a endpoint management system that would, antivirus scan the USB or portable storage media upon insertion would limit its use until that scan is complete and it's determined to be safe. So again, kind of a couple different ways you can approach the answer to that, but either way, those are very good answers. So yeah, 3 assessment points. And that's how we would go about answering it, depending upon whether you do or don't allow the usage of portable storage devices on external systems.
Any potential difficulties in enacting this one in an organization?
I think so. I think the toughest thing is the documentation side. It's not the actual practice. These days, most organizations are not using thumb drives and portable hard drives. However, Manufacturing definitely still is, right? Sometimes you have to take that G code over to the CNC machine, and USB is the only way to get it there, right? Because it's an offline machine because it's air gapped. So manufacturing, definitely see a lot higher usage there. Manufacturing is also a place where culture can really be a challenge. Old school manufacturing companies are awesome, but change comes hard. So I think in those situations, it's really the people. I'll call this a people change. It's a policy change. The technological part is easy. Most antiviruses, any antivirus that would be compliant is going to do scan upon insertion. So limiting the use until it's been determined to be safe. I think the technological aspect's pretty easy. But boy, I'll tell you what, getting your users to check in portable storage devices and check it out when it's in use, that's a pretty hard cultural shift. But again, even if you're a small company, the IT person or the owner, you can take charge of that, take control of it, and just simply make it mandatory. I always like to say when it comes to user behavior, you get what you tolerate. So if you don't tolerate users, continuing to sort of take the thumb drives here and there and bringing in their own from home, well then, that's what you'll get. But if you stop that, then I think you'll be in a much better position.
Absolutely. And it's a lot of great information. But if you've hung out with us out there for 53 episodes, you know the drill at this point. We cover all the technical stuff for over 3 questions as we just did. And then we like to finish with a bit of a silly question to kind of knock off some of the rust and end on a fun note. So, with that being said, we obviously talked about portable storage devices in this one. And while this may not be a storage device, what about if I had a small portable USB oven that baked cookies for everyone in the office throughout the day, but it had to be plugged into my machine? What then?
Well, I guess we would probably have to limit your use to appropriate break times for cookies.
You can tell I really threw you off with that one, which is the goal of these questions.
We actually used to have a guy that had a USB powered mini refrigerator for like 2 cans of soda, and it fried his motherboard actually. Totally random. But a good question is that hackable? So I
I
don't know.
I mean, I guess not. I mean, if because the USB, most USBs don't have to connect to anything, but as far as like online, but you could probably still get into it, I'm sure. But the important question here is who has a USB fridge that only fits 2 cans of soda?
Yeah, I don't know. And it was an Avengers fridge too. It was like
Oh,
an
that though, that's the way to go.
it all of a sudden becomes much more acceptable when Marvel is involved.
I remember when I started and you were taking me through the office and you showed me where my office would be and you're like, all right, here's the office. And you're like, oh, we'll move those 12 packs of soda that are on the floor out of here. And I'm like, oh, no need, those can stay.
Yeah, man, we you know what, we do catering in all of our offices and we try to make everybody really comfortable. So
That's probably my one vice. I love Dr. Pepper. That is my one thing, I think.
I'm a diet soda guy. I will just drink plenty of diet soda, but I also drink a lot of water, so I think it offsets it.
There you go. And that wraps up another great episode of Mission Compliance. We hope our discussion today has provided you with valuable insights, practical strategies, and inspiration to navigate the ever-evolving world of defense. We'd like to extend our appreciation to Mike for joining us and talking about the importance of limiting mobile storage devices. Thanks, Mike.
It's always a pleasure. And don't forget, don't catch a PSD or a portable storage device.
Or go to Florida and catch anything else.
That's right.
But the conversation doesn't end here. We encourage you to continue exploring these topics and connect with us on our social media channels. Share your thoughts, ask questions, and engage with fellow listeners using the hashtag Mission Compliance Podcast. If they haven't already, what should they do, Mike?
Well, of course, they should subscribe, and most importantly, tell your friends because we've been really gaining amazing listenership over the past several weeks and months. And it turns out when you tell your friend about our podcast, you're guaranteed a seat in heaven.
Oh, I don't remember reading that. But if you do all that and you interact with your favorite podcast platform, you'll get notified when new episodes like this one are released. We truly appreciate it if you could take a moment to rate and review the show on your favorite platform, because that's what helps us to continue to bring you thought-provoking episodes and high-quality content. Join us next time as we delve further into the dynamic world of defense, security, and industry innovation. Until then, take care, stay informed, and make compliance your mission. See you next time.
Thanks, everybody.